She said, "I'm your wife." But who is she? Jason was a quiet human man who worked alone near the edge of the desert. He repaired old machines and broken satellites for a living. Most people thought he was boring, but he liked it that way. His life was simple. No surprises, no danger, just peace. That day, the sky had turned a strange color gray with flashes of blue. He heard something fall from above. When he followed the sound, he found a small crashed pod half buried in the sand. Smoke was rising from it, but the pod didn't explode. It just sat there, still and silent. He looked around. No one was in sight. Slowly, carefully, he walked to the pod. The hatch opened with a soft click. What he saw made his heart freeze. A girl stepped out. She had long silver hair and eyes that glowed like stars. Her skin was smooth like metal but moved like flesh. Parts of her body looked mechanical. Small lights ran through her arms and neck. She didn't look fully human. She was something else, something in between. An alien and a cyborg. Jason didn't know what to say. He had never seen anything like her before. But before he could speak, she looked at him and said something that made his blood run cold. "Jason," she said, softly. "I'm your wife." Jason stepped back. "What?" "I finally found you," she said. "I've been searching for a long time." Jason shook his head. "I've never seen you before." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I know. You don't remember me, but I remember everything." Jason's hands were shaking. Was this some kind of joke? Was she confused? Or was this something more serious? He had lived a quiet life. No wife, no girlfriend. No alien women claiming to know him. This didn't make sense. But she didn't look like she was lying. Her face was calm. Her eyes were filled with emotion. She spoke his name with a softness that felt real. "How do you know my name?" He asked. She reached into a small pouch on her side and pulled out something. It was a photo, old and slightly burned. Jason took it with shaky hands. In the photo, he was smiling, and next to him was her. The same silver-haired cyborg girl. They looked happy. They looked close. She had her arm around him, but he had no memory of this moment. "None at all. This can't be real," he said. "I've never taken this photo. It's real," she whispered. "Your memory was wiped, for your safety. And mine." Jason stared at her, not knowing what to believe. His head was spinning. Who was this girl? Why did she have a photo of them together? Why did she call herself his wife? "What's your name?" he asked. "Alira," she said. "I'm from the other side of the system. We met during the war. You were not supposed to remember me, but I kept my memories. I had to. I couldn't let you disappear forever." Jason stepped back again. "You're making a mistake. I'm just an engineer. I've never been in a war. I've never left Earth." Alira looked at him with pain in her eyes. "You did. But they took those memories from you. You agreed to forget so the peace deal could happen. But I couldn't forget. I loved you too much." Jason felt cold. What was she talking about? What peace deal? What war? This was madness. And yet, the photo was in his hand. The way she said his name felt familiar. The way she looked at him, it felt like something deep inside him stirred. Like something locked away for a long time. "I don't understand," he said. "Why now? Why come to me now?" "They're coming again," she said. "The ones who ended the war. They found out I kept my memory. And they'll come for you too. Because if you remember who you were, you become a threat." Jason didn't know what to say. He wanted to call her a liar, tell her to leave, but part of him couldn't. Something felt right and wrong at the same time. She wasn't just some random alien. She knew things she couldn't guess. Like the scar under his left arm. or the fact that he hated thunderstorms. She whispered details about his life that no one else could know. "Come with me," she said. "I'll help you remember. I'll show you who you really are." Jason didn't move. His heart was beating fast. A part of him wanted to run, but another part was curious. What if she was telling the truth? What if there was more to his life than he ever knew? He looked at her one more time, at her strange glowing eyes, at the warmth in her voice. She called herself his wife, and deep inside, something told him. This was just the beginning. The memory file she gave me was me, but not me. Jason didn't sleep that night. Elira sat quietly in the corner of his workshop, her silver hair glowing softly in the dark. She didn't speak unless he asked. She didn't move unless he moved, but her eyes never left him. Jason kept looking at the strange photo in his hand. He had never seen it before, and yet the smile on his face looked real, like it belonged to him. And the way he stood so close to Elira in the picture, it didn't look forced. It looked like love. In the morning, Jason finally asked, "You said I lost my memories. How?" Elira stood up and walked over to the small metal case she had brought from the pod. She opened it and pulled out a thin, smooth silver chip. It pulsed softly in her hand like it was alive. She placed it on the table in front of Jason. "This is yours," she said. "It holds the memories you chose to erase." Jason stared at the chip. "You expect me to believe this can give me back my past?" "I don't expect you to believe," she said gently. "But I want you to see." He hesitated. Then he connected the chip to his console. The screen blinked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, images appeared. He saw a battlefield, not Earth, but a strange planet with red skies. He saw people running, ships flying, fire everywhere. He saw himself older, stronger, wearing black armor. His hair was longer. His eyes were cold. He was fighting side by side with Elira. They moved like a team, like they had trained together for years. Then he saw something more shocking. The two of them sitting together on a rooftop, watching twin suns set. She was smiling, and he had his arm around her. He looked happy, peaceful, in love. Jason pulled the chip out. His heart was racing. "That's not me," he said quickly. "I've never been there. I've never fought in a war. I've never worn armor like that." "But you have," Elira said. "You just don't remember. The council made you forget. They needed peace. You were too powerful, too dangerous. If you remembered what they made you do, what you became, they were afraid you'd rise again." Jason stood up and walked away, his hands on his head. "This is crazy. I build tools, Elira. I fix things. I'm not a soldier." "But you were," she said softly, "and you weren't alone. I was there. I was with you through it all." Jason turned back to her. "Why would I agree to forget everything? Why would I walk away from you?" Elira looked down. "Because you were broken. You saw too much death. You didn't want to be that man anymore. We made a deal you would forget, and I would remember. So if something went wrong, I could find you." Jason sat down, breathing hard. His head hurt. The images felt real, too real, but his heart didn't know what to do with them. Was it possible to live a whole life and not remember it? "You said they're coming for us," he whispered. "Why?" "Because the truth is dangerous," Elira said. "And if you remember who you really are, the peace they built will fall apart." Jason was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "Why didn't you forget too?" She smiled sadly. "Because I loved you more than I feared the truth." Jason looked at her, at the strange glow of her skin, at the soft pain in her voice, at the memory chip still blinking on his table. "What else is on that file?" he asked. "Your whole life," she replied. "The battles, the promises, our wedding, Jason's breath caught. Wedding? Yes, she said. We bonded, not just legally. We linked our minds and souls. You said I made you feel alive. You said if you had to forget, I should remember both of us, and I did. Jason didn't know whether to scream or cry. His whole world was spinning. Was his real life stolen from him? Had he once loved someone this deeply and then let her go? He touched his chest. For the first time, he felt something warm there. A tiny light under the skin, something buried, something forgotten. What happens if I remember everything? He asked. They'll come to kill us both, she said. But you'll also be strong again, whole. Jason looked out the window. The sky was still gray. But now, it felt like a storm was coming. I don't know if I'm ready, he said. I'll wait, Alira said. Like I always have. A Secret War I was never supposed to remember. Jason could not stop thinking about the images he saw in the memory file. They felt like dreams at first, too wild, too different. But the more he thought about them, the more real they felt. His body started reacting strangely. Sometimes, when he picked up tools, he moved faster than usual. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes, not full memories, but pieces. A hand reaching for Alira, a battlefield covered in fire. A promise whispered in a strange language. One night, while walking outside his workshop, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He fell to the ground, gasping. His skin burned. Lines of light ran down his arms like glowing tattoos. They pulsed slowly, like they were waking up. Jason ripped open his shirt. Beneath the skin, strange shapes appeared: metal, wires, symbols. Something had been placed inside him a long time ago. And now it was turning back on. Alira rushed to him. She placed her hand over the glowing part of his chest. Her own skin lit up in response. A soft hum filled the air. It's starting, she whispered. You're remembering. Jason looked up at her. What is this? What am I? She helped him sit. You're not just an engineer. You were once part of a secret human project, Project Echo. You were designed to fight in the Island War. Jason frowned. What war? Alira looked around as if afraid someone was listening. It was never on your news. The Council hid it from Earth. It was fought far from this planet, on forgotten moons and broken stations. A war. Between two kinds of life, pure organics like humans and enhanced synthetics like me. But there was a third group. Hybrids. Soldiers built from both sides. You were one of them. Jason's heart stopped. I'm not fully human? You are, she said softly, but more. They gave you enhancements to survive. You were one of the best, a leader. But after the war ended, the world couldn't handle what you were. So they wiped your mind, placed you far from the stars. Hid the truth, hid me. Jason stared at his glowing arm. He had always felt out of place. Always felt like something inside him was missing. Now he knew why. You were sent to die. Alira said, but I refused to let you go. He looked at her, pain in his eyes. Why would I agree to forget everything? Because you were tired, she said. You saw too many die, too many missions, too many lies. You said if peace was possible, you wanted no more war, no more blood. But now that peace is broken. Jason stood slowly. The pain had faded, but the glow remained. Who broke it? An old enemy, she said. A group of pure synthetics who believe humans are a threat. They found out you're still alive. And if they reach you before your memory is whole, they'll end what's left of you. Jason clenched his fists. Let them come, Alira smiled. That's the man I married. Jason turned back to his workshop. If this war is coming again, I need to know everything. Not just pieces. I want the full memory restored. Alira hesitated. Are you sure? It won't be easy. The truth might break you. I'd rather break than live a lie, he said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a second memory chip. This one was darker, pulsing red. She handed it to him carefully. This is the full file, she said. But once you open it, there's no going back. Jason nodded. Let's wake the ghost. He placed the chip into his console. The screen turned black. Then words appeared. Accessing core memory. Warning. High risk. Jason pressed yes. In seconds, the room was filled with light. His body shook. The pain returned, but stronger. His vision blurred. Elira rushed to hold him as he screamed. Memory after memory slammed into his mind. Missions, battles, betrayal. The moment he said goodbye to her before the memory wipe. He remembered the sound of her voice as he fell asleep for the last time, whispering, I'll find you. And she had. Jason opened his eyes, tears streaming down. His voice was raw. I remember everything. Elira held him close. Then we stand together again. And this time, we don't run. Jason looked out at the dark sky. The war had never really ended. It had only been paused. Now, he was awake. And this time, he was ready. Asterisk were being watched. And hunted. Jason didn't sleep for 2 nights after the memory restoration. His mind was alive now, filled with knowledge, fear, and power he had once buried deep. He remembered the battles, the pain, the people he couldn't save, and most of all, he remembered Elira, how she had stood by him when even the stars turned against them. He wasn't just a quiet engineer anymore. That man was gone. He was a warrior who had been forced to forget who he really was. But now, the warrior was awake again. Outside his workshop, the desert wind carried an uneasy silence. Something felt wrong. Even the machines he had built to monitor the area were acting strange. Glitches, odd sounds, sudden shutdowns. Jason sat in front of his screen, watching static flash for a few seconds before the signal returned. Each time, the static grew longer. Then, early one morning, he heard it, a soft buzz in the air. Not the sound of Earth's bugs or birds. This sound was artificial, cold, mechanical. Jason ran outside and looked up. There, high in the sky, a small black drone hovered. It didn't move like any Earth drone. It floated silently, its body changing shape, scanning. Then it disappeared in a blink. They found us, Jason said, his voice low. Elira stepped beside him. Her eyes flashed blue. We need to move, now. Jason didn't ask how she knew. Deep inside, he felt it too. Something was watching them, something that had been waiting for him to remember. They packed fast. Jason loaded his old rover with tools, supplies, and a hidden weapon he didn't know he still had until his fingers found it naturally. Elira drove. Jason watched the sky. They didn't talk much, but they didn't need to. They were used to silence. The kind of silence that came before a fight. As the rover sped across the sand, Jason noticed something strange. His wrist device, which he thought was just a tracker for his machines, started glowing. A hidden screen opened. A warning message appeared. Active trace signal detected. Threat level rising. They're tracking me, he said. No, Elira replied. They're tracking both of us. The moment your memory unlocked, you lit up. Like a beacon to them. Jason clenched his teeth. So this was a trap. A memory trap. It was a risk, Elira said. But now you can fight. You're not helpless anymore. Jason looked at her. You really waited for me all these years, didn't you? She nodded once. Because I believed you'd wake up again. I believed in who you were. Suddenly the sky flashed above them. A black ship appeared, dropping from the clouds like a silent monster. It didn't make any sound, but the weight of it could be felt in the air. Jason and Elira jumped out of the rover and ran toward the rocks. From the ship, Machines dropped dark metal beings with no eyes and sharp limbs. They weren't here to talk. They were here to erase. Jason's body moved before he could think. A panel opened on his arm, revealing a hidden weapon one he had once used in battle long ago. With a flick, he activated it. A stream of blue light shot out, cutting through the sand. One of the machines leapt, and Jason fired. It exploded in midair. Another one followed, but Alira moved quickly, her body shifting as weapons formed along her arms. Together, they fought back not like strangers, but like a team that had trained for years. Breathing hard, they stood back to back, surrounded by fallen machines. The black ship hovered above, but didn't drop more soldiers. They're testing. U.S., Alira said, watching how strong you've become. Let them watch, Jason said. Next time, I'll aim higher. They found an old cave nearby and took shelter for the night. Jason looked at the small device in his hand, the one that now tracked his every move. It was silent now. But he knew the enemy was still watching. Somewhere out there, behind a screen. Someone was waiting for the moment to strike. I don't want to keep running, he said. We won't, Alira replied. But first we need answers, real ones, about why they fear you, about what you were made to do. Jason looked at the dark sky, stars above, dust below, and danger growing every minute. They erased my past once, he said. They won't erase me again. Asterisk the truth behind our marriage. The fire in the cave crackled softly. Jason sat near it, silent, holding a small metal ring Alira had given him. It wasn't made of gold or silver, but of memory, aloe warm when touched, cool when forgotten. He didn't remember putting it on her finger, but when he held it, his heart beat faster. It wasn't just a ring. It was a key, a symbol, a promise he had once made and chosen to forget. He looked up at her. She was resting with her eyes closed, but she wasn't asleep. She never fully slept. Part machine, part living being Alira's. Mind stayed alert even when her body rested. She opened her eyes slowly and met his gaze. I need to ask you something, Jason said, and I need you to tell me everything. No more pieces. Alira nodded. I know what you're going to ask. Our marriage, he said. Was it real? Alira sat up straight. Her voice was quiet but firm. Yes, but not like Earth's way. During the war, the Council created something called unity bonds. It was a way to bring peace between species. Warriors from both sides could join in a mental and emotional connection, a deep link. It was rare and very dangerous. But for some, it became something real, something powerful. Jason looked at the ring again. You mean, they made us get married? No, she said. They gave us the choice. Most said no, but we said yes. You said you felt more human with me than you ever did on Earth. I said I felt more alive with you than I ever did among machines. Jason's throat felt tight, so it wasn't for politics. It was for us, Alira nodded. You didn't want to forget me. But you knew the war was ending, and they wouldn't allow our bond to survive in the new world. They saw us as a mistake. A risk. Jason touched the spot behind his neck. He remembered the day now, the cold room. The Council's voice telling him it was the only way to protect her, to protect peace. He remembered holding her hand and saying goodbye, even as part of him screamed not to let go. I said I'd find you again, Alira whispered, and I did. Jason looked at her, really looked at her, not as an alien, not as a machine, but as someone who had carried his love across stars and years, through danger and silence, waiting for a promise to be fulfilled. I don't feel married, he said softly. I don't have the emotions you remember. That's because your heart is healing, she replied, but your soul still knows me. I see it in the way you protect me, in the way your hand reaches for mine when you're not thinking. Jason stared at the ring again. If I put this back on, what happens? Nothing at first, she said. But if you choose to restore the full bond, we'll be one again. We'll feel each other's thoughts, pain, joy, love. There will be no secrets, no fear. But once it's done, you can't undo it. He thought for a long time, then said, "Why did we risk it before? We knew what would happen." "Because love is always a risk," Illyra replied. "And we were brave once." Jason held the ring. Between his fingers, it felt warm now recognizing him. He slid it onto his finger. A faint glow surrounded his hand. A pulse passed through his chest, like something locking back into place. "I don't have all the feelings yet," he admitted. "But I want to." Illyra smiled, and this time it wasn't sad. It was hope. Suddenly, Jason's wrist device blinked. A signal was coming through, a message, old and broken. He played it. Subject Echo 7. Found. Recover or terminate. Orders. Urgent. Jason's face hardened. They're not just watching anymore. They're planning something. Illyra stood up. Then we don't hide. We prepare. Jason looked at her. He wasn't just protecting her now. He was standing with her, like before. Like always. They tried to erase me, he said. They erased us. But now, we're writing our story again. Asterisk, I saw my past. And it broke me. Jason had always believed he was just an ordinary man. A man who fixed broken machines and lived in silence. But now that belief was gone, replaced by flashes of war. Faces of people he couldn't name but somehow missed. Sounds of screaming, fire, and metal tearing through air. The bond he shared with Illyra had unlocked more than just memories. It had opened a door, and behind that door was the man he used to be. And that man frightened him. It started the next night. As they sat inside a hidden cave deep in the rocks, Jason began to shake. Not from cold, but from visions that kept crashing into his mind. One second he was in the cave, the next he was back in a burned-out battlefield, his hands covered in alien blood. He saw himself fighting not with fear, but with rage. No hesitation, no mercy. Just silence in his heart and orders in his mind. He gasped and leaned against the wall, sweating. What was I? Illyra rushed to him, her voice gentle. You were what they needed, a weapon, a leader. But you were never heartless, Jason. You only became that when they forced you to. You followed their rules to save lives. Jason looked at his shaking hands. I killed so many. I didn't even think twice. I looked in their eyes and I didn't feel anything. Illyra placed her hand on his chest. Because they took your feelings. They trained you to block pain. To follow logic, not emotion. That's why you broke down at the end. Because you were still human inside. He closed his eyes. Another memory hit him. A room full of children, hiding. He remembered lifting a shield to protect them, standing between them and enemy fire. He had taken the damage alone. His armor burned, but he held strong. That day, he saved every child, but he didn't smile after. He didn't feel joy, just a deep emptiness. I thought saving lives would make me feel better, he whispered, but I just felt hollow. Illyra nodded. That's when you came to me. You said you wanted something real, something that didn't involve orders or blood. Jason opened his eyes. You. Yes, she said. Me, he breathed slowly. His mind kept showing him both sides, brutal fights and quiet moments with her. His life had been full of violence, but also love. That was the part they tried to erase. But now it was coming back, piece by painful piece. I remembered the day I chose to forget, he said. I stood in front of the council. I told them I would give it all up, my memories, my rank, even you, if it meant peace. Illyra looked away. And I stood behind you, unable to speak. Because if I had, I would have begged you not to do it. Jason stood up and walked to the edge of the cave. He looked out at the stars above. They said peace needed sacrifice. But now I wonder, was it peace or just control? They lied, Alira said. They used your loyalty against you. And when you were no longer useful, they buried you. Jason turned to her. His eyes were clearer now, but filled with pain. And you carried my memories alone, Alira stepped closer. Because they were the only thing I had left of you. He touched her face, slowly, like it was the first time. Maybe it was for this version of him. The man who had lost everything and now was learning to feel again. I'm not the same person anymore, Jason said. Not fully. But I remember enough to know. I never should have let them erase you. Alira leaned into his touch. And I never stopped waiting. Jason stepped back, and a fire burned in his eyes. They built me into a weapon, but I'm still human. And now, I choose who I fight for. A message flashed on his wristband again. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a target. Echo 7 located. Prepare for final strike. Jason looked. At Alira. They're coming, she nodded. Then let's show them what they forgot. He smiled a real smile, not from memory, but from now. I'm done hiding. It's time they remember who I am. Asterisk. We stand together again. Wind outside the cave blew harder than before. Dust circled the dark skies as thunder rolled from far away, but Jason felt no fear. He stood taller now, no longer confused, no longer lost. The memories that once broke him had now shaped him. His mind had pain, yes, but also strength. He was Echo 7 again, not because they made him that way, but because he chose to be. This time, he would fight for himself. For Alira. For the truth. Alira walked beside him, calm but ready. Her armor had shifted into battle mode, smooth and silent. Her glowing lines pulsed brighter, now matching the light under Jason's skin. They didn't need to speak. Their bond did the talking. Thoughts passed between them like breath, fear, focus. Fired out above them, the ship returned. Bigger than before. Its dark shape covered the sky. It had no lights, no engines, no sound, but it brought with it a heavy pressure. One that weighed down the air, like the sky itself was watching. From the ship, enemy drones dropped again. Dozens of them. All armed. All ready to erase Echo 7 and anyone beside him. Jason raised his arm. His skin peeled back slightly, revealing the hidden weapon, an old part of him, but more powerful now. Alira's arm shifted, forming twin pulse blades. Their eyes met one last time before the fight. They don't believe we're still strong. Alira said. Jason replied, then we remind them. The first wave of drones came fast. Jason moved without thinking, his body remembering the rhythm of war. He ducked, rolled, and fired, his shots cutting clean through their armor. Alira danced like a shadow, her blades slicing through the machines like paper. Together they moved with perfect timing, each step, each strike, like two parts of the same soul. But the enemy didn't stop. More waves came. More weapons. From the ship above, a giant machine dropped black tall, with arms like cannons and a voice that echoed across the land. Echo 7. You are not authorized to exist. Jason stared at the machine. I never needed your permission. The battle grew louder, fiercer, but Jason no longer felt like one man. The bond with Alira had made him whole again. They fought not just to survive, but to be seen, to be remembered, to prove that love, memory, and truth could not be erased by machines or fear. The large enemy charged a blast toward Jason. Alira saw it coming and jumped in front of him, her armor taking the hit. She fell to the ground, smoke rising from her chest. Jason froze. Alira, she looked up, weak but alive. Finish this, Jason turned, rage and love exploding inside him. His body lit up fully, his veins glowing like blue fire. He charged the machine with a roar that shook the earth. Shots hit him, but he didn't stop. With a final blast from his arm, powered by his own life force, he broke through the enemy's chest and tore out its core. The machine fell. Silence returned. Jason ran to Alira, lifting her into his arms. Her systems were failing, but her eyes still glowed faintly. "Don't leave me again," he whispered. "I won't," she said softly. "Not now, not ever." Jason held her close. As their connection pulsed between them, slow, steady, alive, the ship above began to retreat. The enemy had failed. Echo 7 had survived. And more importantly, he had chosen his path. Jason looked up at the stars. They didn't seem so far now. He had once been forced to forget, to be erased. But now he was remembered not by the galaxy, but by the one who truly mattered. Lara. And together they would never be forgotten again.